lockdown, everyone's been playing more games, right? I found a game where I hadn't picked it up for, I don't know, 20 years. Do you recognise this, Brady?
That's Pass the Pigs.
Did you have a copy of this?
Yes.
In its faux leather case, plastic? For anyone who hasn't played this game, it is ridiculously simple, and I can't quite believe that it's a good game when it's just roll the pigs. But what I'd like to do in this video is sort of remind everyone how it works, or show you if you haven't seen it, and also we can do some proper mathematical modelling on this, which surprised me, and I quite enjoyed it. So that's the plan. So the pigs they're just plastic pigs. Maybe I can plant them here. Is that on your camera? Okay. There's a dot on one side and not on the other, but there's just two of them. They're plastic pigs. They're not real pigs. And the idea is you roll them and you score some points. Now this is a very exciting roll. There are some scores here. How they land just give you some points. So according to this, this one's called a Razorback because it's landless back, so it gives me 5 points. I'm not going to go into details. Like, the rules are here, and you just roll the pigs, you score some points, and that's it. Which does not make it a good game until you realise you do have a decision to make, which is you can roll again at any point. Like, I've scored some points, I can roll again, and I score some more points, and I can keep rolling as many times as I like, unless I roll. On the next time I roll this particular configuration where one dot up, one no dot, and that's called pig out, and I lose my points. So that's the end of my turn. It's not the end of the game, it's just the end of my turn, and at that point I pass the pigs.
So you sort of stick or twist, hoping not to bust out.
Bank or bust, stick or twist, roll or hold, whatever you want. But it's that dichotomy. The only decision you're making is actually, do I roll again, or does that feel too greedy? So the risk is actually, it's a simple decision, but it's not obvious how to play well. The trouble is with this game, is it's really hard to analyse how to play well, because pigs are notoriously difficult to predict how they land. Like, it's not obvious to me the probability of landing like this, or landing like that, or the best roll I think is called a leaning jowler, where it's on its ear and its chin. Great, but I have no idea the probability of rolling that. So, for the sake of analysis, and this is what I like to think of as mathematicians doing the modelling cycle, you basically, let's just make it simpler so we can analyse it, and then we'll come back to upgrade for the real thing. So I'm going to remove the pigs for now, but they'll come back, and we'll replace the pigs with a single d6, regular d6, and in this game, same idea, you just roll the die, and whatever it lands on, you score, and you then choose to roll again or bank. And the catch, like in the other one, is that this time, if you roll a 1 at any point, that's the end of your turn, and you pass the dice to the next person. So that's it. And actually, this is the original game, as far as I can find. It's been around for a long time. It's called Pig, which I presume is where they got the name Pass the Pigs from, and they just thought, oh, let's make some novelty pigs, and boom, millions of pounds later, everyone's happy with the plastic pigs game. But the original D6, roll a 1, you lose your points, pass it on. Otherwise, you bank at any point. Let's have a game, Brady.
All right.
I'm actually going to have 2 columns for each of us, and one will be a running total, one will be just the points you score on this turn. So, you're going to go first.
Here we go, you ready?
Yeah. That's a 4. Now you can roll again, or you can bank it.
I'm going to roll again.
I think you should.
All right.
But don't let me tell you what to do.
All right, I want more points. 4's good, though.
4's a good score. It's better than 1. And you've lost everything. So you get a 0 for that turn, and your total becomes 0. So
I was greedy.
Yeah, you were greedy. I first learned this game with the dice, and I called it Greedy Pig. So you get the idea. Like, maybe that was too much. Maybe you should have banked. I've got a 5. I'm going to roll again. 3, that's 8 altogether. I'm going to roll again. Oh, nice. Hold on. 14. So I'm going to bank on 14 just to get the principal. Have another turn, Brady.
Oh.
6. Nice. What are you going to do? You've been burnt last time, but what are you going to do?
I'm going to go again.
Hey, take the risk.
I need more points to catch you.
And that's all over. So you're still on 0. But, I mean, let me make the way the game works. I want to show the scoring here. So I'm going to do another turn just to rub it in your face. That's a 2. If I bank that round scores me 2, but it adds on to my cumulative total, so I've got 16 altogether. And there's variations of this game. Go on then. Get off the ground here.
I want to catch your 16.
But do you have the guts to trust your intuition about what's a good score to wait for, or are you now scared because of your 2
I should roll.
burnouts?
I should roll a 1 every 6 goes. So
should you? Is that guaranteed? Is it?
No.
There's a 5.
5. Go again.
He's going to go again, despite the evidence of whatever. And there's a 6. That's 11.
I could catch you. I'm going to go.
Take the risk.
I'm going to go 1 more.
Greedy. There it is! I wish I'd rigged this. It's too good.
Oh.
Right, well, I'm going to have a go.
No, I'm going.
I'll play on my own. I'm going to go again. And a 6, 9. I'm going to take a 9. So that's a 9 for that turn, but altogether I've got mental arithmetic. 25. Do you want to get off the mark, or are you just going to accept this is your fate in life?
This is unbelievable.
We're going to cut to like 20
2,
rolls through the video here.
2,
There's 7
7.
altogether. You're still going.
Go one more.
Just one more. Well, what I like about this game, with the dice, even more than the pigs, it's dead simple, right? But the high stakes, so I've seen a classroom of people play this, and it gets loud really quickly. People are shouting the dice is unfair. This one, like, it feels like it's rigged against you. I did it right. And that's the luck of a dice roll. And that's why games with randomness are interesting. You cannot predict what's going to happen. What you can do is predict what you should do on average. You've played the game. You've done... I was going to try and put it nicely. You've done really terribly. But that wasn't, I think, for a lack of skill. Like, luck plays a part here. So what strategies might you have, even if they don't pan out every time? Do you have any thoughts about a strategy to play the game well? I think you were thinking of some.
If there's a 1 in 6 chance of roll, I think you should do 3 rolls per go.
Okay, so what I'm going to call this is a roll strategy. Basically, you pick a number of rolls that you think is safe. Maybe 3 rolls is a good idea. And if you're still in after 3, you're saying bank. Maybe that is sensible. But as soon as you pick that as a strategy, the next question is, well, maybe 4 would be better. Or maybe 20 rolls would be better. I suspect both of us think, nah, the chance of you getting a 1 there is like, it feels like it's going to outweigh any benefit. So we have an instinct about a roll strategy, but the question is, for what value of n does the roll strategy work best? Now, I'd like to analyse this one in a minute, but there's another way of playing. Instead of picking a roll, do you know what I'm going to say?
A point strategy?
Yeah, so like I'm going to call it a score strategy. Maybe you just pick a target to get to. So let's say I pick 10, and then I just keep rolling however many rolls until I get at least 10. And as soon as I won't always get 10 exactly. I might get 11 because I want a 9 and I roll a 2 or something.
That seems better now to me.
Yeah, why? I think I agree.
Because scores and points is what wins the game.
Absolutely, there's our goal here. And we actually haven't talked about how to win the game, which is a bit of an error in any game. The game is compelling even when you don't know that. But traditionally, the game of Pig, you pick a target to get to, first to 100 wins. Now you could do 10 turns each, and that'll be a different game. But the thing with mathematical modelling, like, that complicates things. And in fact, playing against each other complicates things too, because you already said, I'm going to try and beat you now. If I'd done well, you take more risks. That's how games work, and they should work. That's what makes them interesting. But a modelling point of view, you need to go way back. So this is why I made the comment about playing on my own. If you just consider, I'm just going to play on my own, which is a bit of a strange, sad game to play, lockdown appropriate perhaps. You can then answer the question of, how do I maximise my score? And then you start applying that to the game situation. So I think we should analyse these 2 options. But the other strategy option is to just play until you feel lucky. So let's analyse a roll strategy, even though we think that maybe the score strategy is a healthier way. A few things about dice. There's an average score on dice. That's helpful to know. Although this is slightly different because rolling a 1 doesn't get you anything. If you roll a die in this game, 2 things can happen that are critical. One is you roll a 1 and you're out for that turn, or you score some points. So let's split into those 2. I'm going to do a calculation that mathematicians call an expectation. So what you expect. And there are 2 outcomes. One is a 1/6 chance of rolling the 1, and we'll get 0 points for the entire turn. Now, quick mental maths for you. What's the chance of you not getting that 1?
5 and 6.
Excellent. So 5/6 of the time we'll score some points. And to cut a long story short, I could do like 1/6 of the time you get a 2, 1/6 of the time you get a 3. We're just going to average it. So actually, if you ignore the 1, the average points you score, if you score anything, is 4, because the average of 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 5/6 of the time you're going to score 4 points on average. In fact, if I add these 2 together, we've got the probability times the outcome plus the probability times the outcome. This is what they call a classic expectation calculation. This tells me what I would expect to score after 1 roll. So, and this bit is just 0, right? So on average, I would expect to score 5/6 of 4, or 3.3. So that's my expectation after 1 roll. And I don't think it's too difficult to do a 2-roll strategy. The chance that you're still in after 2 rolls, you've got to roll not a 1 on the first roll and not a 1 on the second roll. And on average, if you're still in after 2 rolls, well, if you're still in, you're going to get 4 points from the first roll on average and 4 points on average from the second roll. It's actually 8, but when we calculate it, we're going to get something less than 8. But I'm just ignoring the zeros. If I'm out, I've got nothing. So the expectation for 2 rolls is this, 5.5 recurring. So 2 rolls is better than 1 roll, and I think we could have predicted that. Can we generalise now? I think we should jump straight in. Numberphile viewers are ready to generalise. We're going to go straight to n rolls instead of just doing 3 and 4 and working our way up. So I think you can see how this works. It's going to be, if you're still in after n rolls, we need to be not rolling 1s n times in a row. So that's the chance of me still being in. And on each turn, I'm going to be scoring 4 points, but I've got n of those turns. So this is my formula for my expectation after n rolls. And if you graph this, you get a graph that's like this. It's a nice non-trivial shape, and it definitely has a peak. And what did you pick 3 rolls? Well, I have news for you. The peak happens at 5 and 6. In fact, the peak happens between the two. Now, you can't roll between, but this graph, like if I plotted it just to integers, 5 and 6 give you the highest thing. It's just over 8 they expect. Now, you can't roll 5.5 times. Anyway, if you analyse the roll strategy, it says the best expected score is 5 or 6 rolls. And that feels quite intuitive. You were worrying right at the beginning about there's a 1 in 6 chance of getting that 1. And it seems to back up that slightly naive understanding of like, well, maybe I should only roll 6 times. 5 or 6, apparently, on average, gives you the same expected outcome.
So what should I do in a game? 5 or 6?
I think probably 5, because it's the same expectation for less risk. And that's what this graph is not showing us, is that 6 on average will get you the score the same, but in practice it'll quite often give you a higher score and also more often give you 0. So they sort of balance out. So I think 5 is maybe saner. But it's still a problem with the roll strategy because it's not taking into account, like if you did really well on the first 3 rolls, you're more tempted to say, I want to keep that safe. And the roll strategy will never pick that very sensible thing up. So I think even though we can analyse it, and 5 or 6 turns out to be good advice if you're going to follow it, it's not great for how to play the game.
Because it's not taking into account that lucky streak when you rolled 3
Absolutely.
6s.
And everybody does take that into account, and the maths can take that into account. We've done a naive strategy, but this is what modelling is like. You do a simple pass through, and then you think, right, let's go back around the modelling cycle, upgrade it. So let's go for a score strategy. And I suggested maybe aiming for a score of 10 might be good. And I'm curious about your instincts about this. Is 10 a good thing to aim for?
Do you want another piece of paper?
Yeah, I do. I think for the score strategy, it's surprisingly difficult to calculate the expectation. If I aim for a score of 10, I think we all know sometimes I will get 10, or a bit more than 10, and sometimes I get 0. So the average is going to be probably a bit less than 10. So intuitively, we can guess that it's a bit less than 10. But if I aim for a score of 50, I'm very unlikely to get it. So most of my turns are going to be 0. But once in a while, boom, I get 50. So where does the average go then? It's really not intuitive. And it's really hard to calculate. But what we can do is figure out what the best score to aim at is by considering individual scores. Not getting the expectation, just getting, if I'm on a score of 10, what will happen if I choose to roll again. So let's try 10 as our example. So I'm aiming for 10. It means if I get anywhere above 10, I will bank. If I'm on a score of 10, let's ask what happens next. So just like before, 1/6 of the time, I'm going to get 0. 5/6 of the time, I'm going to score some points. And on average, that's going to be 4 points. Except I've already got 10. So I think if I'm on a score of 10 and I choose to roll again, my expectation of the next roll, this is not saying what will I eventually get, but if I'm on 10 and I roll again, this is my expectation. And it'll be 4 plus 10. So we can calculate this. The 0 is obvious again. I get 11.6. Okay, now what does that mean? Well, 11.6 is higher than 10. For me, that means if I'm on a score of 10 and I don't roll again, I'm going to get 10. Like that bit's obvious. If I do roll again, on average, I'll get 11.6. So it sounds to me like I should roll again, like it's higher. So if I try another score, let's try 30. If I'm on 30, the calculation is dead simple. 5/6 of the time, the 0 I'm going to ignore, I'm going to get 4 plus 30. So I can calculate that. And already the instincts are kicking in. You think, maybe I've been a bit greedy if I try and wait till I get 30. And indeed, I get 28.3 ... And that is less than that. So if I bank on 30, I've got 30. If I roll again, on average, I'll end up with 28. So my point is that somewhere these scores will equalise. And I think at that point, we've got an indication of a good target score to aim at. But before we do the calculation, I mean, Numberphile viewers are probably got their paper ready to go. Let's try a couple of simulations. So I've got a GeoGebra simulator for Greedy Pig here. It's actually simulating a strategy. So up here, I've got aim for 10. And I'm just going to click start, and it will start aiming for 10 and banking if it ever gets it, just repeatedly.
Starting from 0 rolls.
Yes, and so you can see some bars appearing. So if I get 10 or more, it gives me a bar, and there's a couple of turns I got 0, and it's going to go off into the distance here. And the yellow line is what I'm scoring on average. All the turns it's tried it, and you can see it's a bit lower than 10. So there's the occasional 0 roll, but quite a lot of the time I'm getting 10 or more, but the 0s drag that line down a bit. And you can see on average, I'm getting about 7.5 points. So this is the calculation I didn't do before. This is the holy grail of like, what is the expectation? If I aim for 10, I will get about 7.98. And I know that that is accurate, although it's actually a little bit high, and I need to do thousands of these rolls to get it properly. And what I'd love to do is find the theoretical way of doing this. More on that later.
Because what this didn't take into account was the probability that you even got to 10 in the first place.
Exactly. It's like if you're on 10 and you roll again, then it's a good thing. But hey, how likely is it that you get to 10? And that's a difficult calculation. But what we can do is test other strategies. So let's stop and reset this. And if I aim for a really high one, I'm actually going to go higher than our 30 we did. Like they're going to go up to 50. Oh. And I think we know it's probably a bad way to play the game. So just take a moment. What we're going to expect here, once in a while, we're going to see a bar that goes up to 50. Like I would have to change the scale. It's going to go really high. But when I say once in a while, it's probably really rarely going to happen. So I'm going to start it before it takes us ages. Most of the time, we're going to get 0. And what's also annoying in this is it takes ages to run a turn because it's basically rolling a dice lots of times to get up to 50. And I'm a bit nervous we're never going to get a score. We're already at 9 to 10 turns and I've not scored 50. Oh, there we go. We got 50. So that was like 1 in 10 chance of doing it. You see my average is terrible. It's like 3 per turn because only once have I scored loads of points and the rest of the time got 0.
Let's see if you get another one.
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're just going to play this for the rest of the video. Is that okay with you?
I'm totally fine. I'm obsessed.
There are 2 things here. First of all, our instinct is backed up by the simulation. The average is low. Even though you're being super optimistic, it just doesn't work out in your favour. I will shout if we get another one, don't worry. But I want it to go quicker, so I need to write a better piece of script. I should do it in Python probably rather than GeoGebra, so we don't get the visuals clogging up and slowing the thing down. And nobody would play like this. But we already know that probably somewhere between aiming for 10 and aiming for 30 is a good score.
You got 2 50s early on and you haven't got any since.
Yeah. What are the chances?
I'm so going to get a 50 in real life.
If you film that, I will. I'll be impressed. Yeah. Let's just try one in between. If we wanted to guess somewhere between, so I'm going to stop it, and we'll aim for, I don't know, something like 19. Let's see if that works any better. So I'm just going to set this going, and if you aim for 19, sometimes you're not going to get it, but I've got a couple there, and already my average is about 5 or 6.
Got 3 in a row there.
Yeah, that was nice. And you see that the average is kind of bouncing around a lot. You need a lot of data for this to smooth out. It's quite surprising how long it takes to sort of regularize here. So there's got to be a better way. And we can go back to our calculations to find it. I mean, 19 feels about right. The average is pretty good, 7.8, 7.4. Maybe it was as good as 10. I have a feeling that when we were aiming for 10, we were getting a bit lucky. More 10s than was expected. Because 10 isn't very high, and maybe you should wait longer. So we're going to solve the equation to find out the best thing to aim for. Back to the actual maths. The crucial thing is we want to find the score where if we roll again, we've kind of reached the balance point. It's not higher and it's not lower. So I'm going to change the score we're on for n, generalizing, and we want to solve this expression. That's my expected score if I roll again. You can see how the numbers have sort of changed. And we want it to be bigger than the score I'm on. So this is a lovely sort of GCSE UK 16-year-old qualification inequality to solve. So we're just going to go ahead and solve it, and you can check my maths and correct me if I mess it up, Brady. I'm going to multiply both sides by 6, and that's positive, so we're okay with that. That gives me 6n there. I'm going to multiply out this bracket to get 20 plus 5n greater than 6n. Take away 5n from both sides, 20 greater than n. And I'm going to swing this round. That's my headline. And the whole thing was that I was claiming this line, this is describing when I should roll again, when my expected score is bigger than what I'm currently on. And that translates into you roll again if n is less than 20, which means that 20 is where you start getting too risky to risk rolling again. And 20 is a good score to aim at. And if we tried 20 on here, I guarantee we'd get a pretty good average, but it takes a long time. So what I did...
so I was playing right before.
You're playing pretty well. The aiming, like you can see how this matches the roll strategy. 5 rolls on an average score of 4 gives you a score of 20. So they kind of, at least they agree with each other, even though I think this is a better way to play, because if you get 20 early, bank it. And if you roll lots of 2s, stay in a bit longer, because it's not worth like banking out too early. So I think this is almost, for the simple game, you're not playing against someone else, aim for 20 is a good piece of advice on playing pig. I realise we can't translate this to pass the pigs yet, because I don't know the probabilities of pigs, but we'll come back to that. a couple of other things to show. I've got a lot of data on this. I've asked a lot of school kids to play this game and give me some data. So I can show you the graph of what they've aimed for a bunch of different target scores. This data is from over 1,000 students trying this game. Like when we were during lockdown, we ran this as an online session, and everyone was like submitting their data on Google Forms. I've got the graph, and you can see different target scores along here, and their average score. And you can see that it's kind of backing us up here. There's some surprises. So aiming for a low score doesn't do well on average, but it doesn't do disastrously. Thing is, if you aim for a score of 2, quite often you're going to roll a 6, 1 in 6 of the time, in fact. And so you're going to do a lot better than actually getting 2. But it doesn't like balance the risk and reward, whereas aiming a bit higher gives us better on average. But over here, it's just really messy. And I think this is an artifact of data, just not enough data. So I hinted at it earlier, what we really want is not 1,000 school kids, we want millions of rolls, probably done by a computer simulation. So I channeled my inner Matt Parker and dusted off my Python and wrote a simulation. So I'm just going to show you the simulation of 1,000,000 rolls for each target score strategy, and we'll see if it backs up our theoretical one. This is a glimpse of my code. I don't think I'm going to put it on GitHub because it embarrasses me when people comment on my lack of comments in code. But here's the video that it produced. This is after one turn. I did do 1,000,000, but just to like after one turn at each of these, you can see that a score of 40 did all right. It's got over 40 points. It fluked it. Most of the other high targets are 0, so they're just not there. And I've got a little podium first, second, third, and that's going to move as we go. The first 20 turns go quite slow, and then it will speed up. So here's 1,000,000 rolls of the game of Pig. And you can see, like, even after 5 turns, there's a whole region that's never scored anything, and maybe that's because it's too risky. But the 36 is doing inexplicably well. Let's carry on a bit more. So now we're on. Let's get up to 20 turns, and I think everything's pretty much off the mark by then. But like, it's such a mess. There's no way I could pull out any sort of reliable data here. So I'm just going to let this go. We'll go all the way up to 1,000,000. It does go a bit quicker. And I love how spiky the graph is and how it settles down. After 1,000 turns, it's already better than the data we've got. I don't know how reliable the students were at the data. Python is doing better, although it's using pseudo-random numbers, so got to trust that. Already, the shape is settling down, and we can see that 20 is doing pretty well, although it's not on the podium for some inexplicable reason. Aiming really high, on average, does okay. It's just that most of the time, you're getting nothing, so it's really depressing. 20 is now on the top of the leaderboard. We've done 200,000 turns. 21 and 22 doing well and close behind. But the first observation is that it's not a lot better than aiming for 21. But at least the maths is being backed up by the simulation. There's a weird artifact at the beginning. These 2 first bars are level. I'm not going to comment on why. I think I do know why, but people might want to have a think about that. And after 1,000,000 turns, I think we're there now. 20 did win in my simulation, which I'm very relieved about. Closely followed by 19 and 21. In the other order, in fact. But all the others nearby did pretty well. So in fact, this is backing up. If we actually aim for around 20, you're going to do all right. And maybe you start to get a glimpse of how to play the game against a player better, because if you know 20 is roughly where you want to be, you then compensate with the other story, like, are they way ahead of you? In which case, risk a bit more. Are you way ahead? Maybe back off a bit. Now, I did do the calculation for the actual expectation. So this is experimentation. If you want to calculate what you expect to happen if you aim for 20, you need the probability of getting to 20 in lots of dice rolls, and it's ridiculously complicated. It's a partition problem. How many ways can you add up numbers to get to 20? And these are the numbers from 2 to 6, in fact. This explodes really quickly. So
did you roll 10 2s or did you roll 4 5s?
And you very quick, if you start counting just the ways of getting to 6 even, it's quite big, the number of ways of doing it. So I ran a script on Python to try and calculate some of this. It got to 22 by running over a weekend, and I couldn't get it to go any further. Now, it's probably inefficient coding, but the size of the problem made me chuckle because there's a much easier way, just run 1,000,000 simulations. And like mathematicians being allowed to do what they call Monte Carlo simulation, it just makes me smile. Is that there's an easier way, just try the thing. And computers help us do that. So I did plot the expectation calculations. So these dots are the theoretical values. I'm really pleased that they match. Now, that I got to 22, I claimed. The dots after 22 or 23 are a fiction from me. I made up the curve that I think roughly followed it. In fact, I used the roll calculation to get an approximate curve of what's going on. And I think they're a bit high based on the actual simulation. So that's the game of Pig. Aim for 20. Trouble is, when you play against a real player, your instincts change, right? And you were already commenting, I want to catch up with you.
Because when you're aiming for a target that's quite low, like 100, if there's some vagary that's advantaging you, you're having a lucky day, I need to adjust my strategy to try and catch you.
And if, for example, I'm on, let's say, 90, and you're on, I don't know, 40, like conceivably happen, and it's your turn next, what instincts would you have?
Go big.
Yeah, like go big or go home, because if you give me another turn, I'm probably going to win. Like, the game is probably over for you, but you have a chance, you must take it. So aiming for 20 would be stupid. You'd end up on 60, bank, and I win. So you go for like something crazy, like, could you get 60 points to steal the win? And that's why the game gets exciting. But mathematically analysing that is hard, because you've got three variables. I think you've got the score you're on, which we kind of talked about, but then you've got the score the other person's on, which does affect how you play, and the target you're aiming at. But let's just say that's 100. So then what some mathematicians in America did is realise that you can analyse this. It's Todd Niller and Clifton Presser, and I dropped them an email to ask them about this game, and they found a way to definitively answer the question of what's the best way to play. The best way to play is to bear in mind the 20, and like that, their opening line is like, we all know that 20 is the best way to play. And then they're like, how do you take into account, this is background the cycle, how do you upgrade the model to take account of the psychology of playing against a human, how close to winning are they? And they use a process called value iteration. What they realised is that every position, like your score versus their score versus what you're currently rolling, has like a value, which is basically how likely are you to win from that position. But each of those values depends on which other positions you can get to and how valuable those positions are. They're all interconnected. They set up a vast system of equations, and this process called value iteration is where you pick a random value for all of those positions, and you force them by running it through a calculation again to converge on what their values must be until it's close enough. So you don't get a precise answer, but you get a converging iteration. And they basically ended up with a three-dimensional graph of how to play the game. And to cut a long story short, let me show you the graph. This looks daunting, right? So, but let's just talk about I'll show you another view in a minute, but there's your score along here and the opponent's score along here. So it's always done from player one's point of view. And the vertical axis is the turn total that you're currently on, the one you have control over, and the rest is in the bank. Here's another view of it from the other side. First of all, there's this weird, like the first thing you notice is plane. And that's because if you're on a score of 90, there is no point in you rolling more than 10 because you finish the game. And if you want to score an 80, you roll for 20, right? So that is 100 minus X, actually, that's sort of the line of that plane. And that's why there's that sort of starting obvious thing. But then it's surprisingly bumpy and non-smooth and all over the place. And there's some overhangs, and that's just weird. So let's look at one little cross-section here. So I'm going to pull out a cross-section of when the opponent is on a score of 30. So imagine you're playing against me, Brady. I'm on 30. And
100 is a win.
100 is a win. And if you're on 0 and I'm on 30, what would you do?
Go big.
Why?
Because I need to make up lost ground.
And so you can see there's this line here. The black line is indicating like what you should aim for, and it's just there's a dotted line at 20, which we know is like default behaviour, sensible, but you should aim higher than 20. Not a lot higher, because you don't want to lose it all, but aim a bit higher to catch up. And the grey region in the background is saying that score is likely to happen if both players are playing optimally. And then there's a region where it's white, but there's still a black line. It's all above 20. And if you're on a score of 30, and I'm on a score of 30, what would your instincts be?
Stick to the normal strategy.
Right, and that's because the black line is bang on 20 at that point. What's surprising is that in between, when you start looking at it, like it starts to go up and down. So sometimes you should be aiming higher than 20 because you're behind. But if you are really far ahead, I don't know, if you're on a score of 60, I'm on 30, what would you do? What this algorithm is saying is that you're far enough ahead that you can back off the risk. So aim for below 20. In fact, the line is about 18. What's strange is that as soon as you get to about 60, there's another overhang here, which means that, first of all, I think the first line is crossed. You should bank at about 16. You're far enough ahead. Don't take the risks. Cruise to the finish. But if you didn't stop at 16 and you started getting a big score, there comes a point when you're on 95. Should you keep going? The risk of losing it is outweighed by the fact that you might win on the next roll. So there's the overhang kicking in. It's like, actually, if you keep going, even though we've told you to stop, then it starts to make sense. Oh, just go for it now. If you're way ahead, you can see it goes all the way down. You can aim for like as low a score as about 10 in this case, if you're on about 75. After that, you go about past 75, you're like, just go for broke. You're like, you're too close to finish. And I love that all that psychology, which we have an intuitive feel, has been solved mathematically to back it up. And fair play to Todd and Clifton, who wrote the maths to do that and have this lovely creation of beautiful three-dimensional graphs, which I just love this animation. And what it also means, to bring this full circle, is that they've done the analysis on the simple game, they can do the analysis on the real game. All that's missing is the probabilities of how these pigs roll. I mean, we could do it if they hadn't done it, but a school in America had a school project at one point. The whole class, I think they had a week off work, they rolled these pigs thousands of times and recorded what positions they landed in. And Todd and Clifton were like, our work is done. Plug those numbers into our value iteration thing, and they've got a 3D graph for how to play past the pigs. So I'm not going to give the secrets away too much. You can go and read their paper. I think it's a nice bit of digging. But there's an optimal, there's sort of the basic thing to aim for based on the scoring here, and taking into account how close to the finish you are, how close to the finish your opponent is. Here's the graph of past the pigs. It's slightly differently coloured, but I just really like it. There's some other subtleties going on with 2 different layers here. But first thing to notice is it's quite a similar looking graph to our game, but it is at different values. Same axes though, that's player 2 score here, player 1 score there, and the vertical is your turn total. And what they've done, they're also on their website, you can go and find this out, follow the link to the paper. They've also analysed all the other variants. There's loads of variants, like maybe you lose on a 6 instead of on a 1. Hey, we can figure out the strategy for that now. All the variants of other sort of marketed games with different variations too. I really like this. It's like a triumph of mathematical modelling based on a game that we can all understand and we have some instinct about. And there's like lots of iterations of how much better can we train our intuition with a bit of mathematics. Some of it's high school maths, gives you a first glimpse. Some of it's more than high school maths, but is graspable, and the paper's about it. And Todd and Clifton have programmed, actually with another colleague of theirs, they programmed an online pig player. So you can go and play against the optimal pig player online and see if you can beat it.
Oh, there's no chance I'll beat it.
Brady, your luck may change. Then again, it may not.
This episode was supported by KiwiCo. Get one of these boxes of genius delivered to your doorstep and channel your inner engineer. Now, I know these are mainly for a younger demographic, but basically you can choose your box from the site, as you can see here, and everyone's catered for, even me. I always think I'm a bit of a numpty when it comes to making stuff like this, but seriously, even I could handle it. And I kind of felt a real sense of achievement putting it all together. It's fun, but it also pulls back the curtain on all sorts of science and tech, art, mathematics, engineering, all that good stuff. Now, I'm being a little bit greedy doing it myself, but I can see how a subscription to KiwiCo would go down very well with numerous members of my family. Could be a birthday present taken care of here. And a special offer, get 50% off your first month by going to kiwico.com/numberphile. The URL is there on the screen and also down in the description, and there is my animation machine. Not bad at all.
Gives you power, so you can look at a different version of the game. Instead of a D6, why don't you use a D8? And instead of losing on a 1, you could say lose on anything else. I'm going to say you lose on a 1 or a 2.